So now that I've talked about the science and the tracking and everything, I'll come to the reproductive system just a little bit, because understanding how it all works is extremely important for being able to plan it efficiently and see the sense or logic in going about and doing things the way that you are doing. I think I mentioned in my previous video also that in your entire cycle you ovulate 14 days prior to the start of your next cycle. So no matter how long your cycle length be, like it's 33 days, 35 days, whatever, you subtract 14 days from your cycle length and you are likely to reach your day of ovulation. Okay, so what happens on the day of ovulation? Your ovary ovulates, so the follicle ruptures, the egg or the ovum is released, and it either moves to the right or the left fallopian tube, and then it lives there for 12 to 24 hours, within which time if it does come across a sperm to fertilize with, there is fertilization. If not, then it disintegrates and you start your periods. Your uterine lining sheds and you start your periods. So this is what happens inside the female body. Now let's come to the male body. There are about 300 million sperms which are released for intercourse, and we all know about the celebrated winner of a sperm which shows itself in the form of a baby. But there are only about 100 which reaches the egg. So the sperm, once it's released, doesn't really have the best time in the world, and reaching the fallopian tube, which is its end objective, is met with a lot of obstacles in its pathway. Then on top of that, there's speed, direction, motility, which differs for each sperm and which decides which one is good or capable enough to swim through. So what are some of the things that can go wrong? The sperm can enter the wrong fallopian tube. As I mentioned that your egg is released in either the right or left fallopian tube. So a lot of sperms might be entering the wrong fallopian tube without the egg, the fallopian tube without the egg. A lot of sperms might reach the right fallopian tube but not find its way to the egg. It might be attacked by cleansing cells in the uterus, because the uterus thinks this is an invader, right? This is an outsider which I need to protect this body against, and it might cleanse these cleansing cells might clean them out. So yeah, it's not the best environment. The vagina has a very acidic environment, so this is precisely why the egg white cervical mucus helps, because the pH value of the cervical mucus actually protects it against the harsh acidic environment of the vagina and helps it swim through. So that is why it's also so important. So yeah, a host of factors working against the sperm. So only 100 reaching the egg at the end of the journey, and only usually one of them winning. So these are the things that are happening from the male and the female perspective. But what are the points that we need to keep in mind? Number one, points that are important for us in our trying to conceive journey. Number one, the egg lives in the fallopian tube for 12 to 24 hours. So from whenever the egg is released, its lifespan is 12 to 24 hours. The sperm, on the other hand, how long does it take for a sperm to reach the fallopian tube? It could take, so every sperm is different and every human's sperm is different probably. So your sperm could be a fast swimmer, a moderate swimmer, a slow swimmer, whatever. Based on that, it could take between half an hour to 12 hours. We don't know. But how long does it live for? Maybe 3 to 5 days or more. Now what I did was took the worst case scenario for everything. My egg lives for 12 hours only. Sperm takes 12 hours or more to reach. Lives for 2 days. I took the worst case scenario in like all respects and planned according to that. So imagine, I'll just throw in random figures now so that it's easy for you to reconstruct the entire scene and understand why it's absolutely crazy to plan ovulation, to plan sex on the day of ovulation. Here's a scenario. You ovulate at 3 p.m. Okay, one fine Saturday. According to your app, that is the day you are ovulating. So fine, you've planned to try that night, and you're like, yeah, fine, this is the day I ovulate, and we are gonna try tonight, and it's going to work. So you have ovulated at 3 o'clock. You try at night at around 11, and your egg is almost half dead. It's got 4 hours remaining, 4 hours of life remaining. The sperm, your husband's sperm, is not the fastest. It does not take 45 minutes, which it did might have saved the scenario and you would have conceived. But no, your egg has 4 hours to live, and your husband's sperm takes 12 hours or even 5 hours to swim up. You're not going to be conceiving that month, in spite of all your ovulation kits predicting the right day and your cervical mucus being right on that day and all of it. So please, it's always better to have the egg, to have the sperm waiting. Let the egg enter like a queen and get fertilized on its own time, and have the sperm waiting for them. Because once the sperm reaches the fallopian tube, by the way, it can chill there. I mean, that's a really favorable environment for them. It's La La Land, and they can live there for 3 to 5 days. Let's just imagine 2 days, worst case scenario. I hope I've answered the question of why it's a horrible idea to have sex just on the day of ovulation. These are, I mean, fertile days, the term fertile days would make no sense if there was only one day to look out for, right? Fertile days are the days when, if you try, if you have sex, you are likely to conceive as well. You are fertile. So the 4 or 5 days leading up to your ovulation day, plus your ovulation day, and maybe a day after that, because it said that the egg lives for 12 to 24 hours, are considered as your fertile days. But please keep trying. Maybe if not every other day, every 2 days. It's not possible all the time to, be that punctual about it or planned about it. So you don't have to make it a very rigorous ritual. But if both of you, if both you and your partner are on the same page about where you are in your cycle and when it is that your fertile days are and when you're likely to ovulate, you could have a mutual understanding. Not maybe take a pen and paper and write down, oh, these are the days we are going to try, but have that at the back of your head that maybe around this week we should be trying every other day or every 2 days, so that it doesn't become weird, but you're doing what you're supposed to do as well. Because see, if it's unplanned, it doesn't really matter, you could be doing whatever whenever. But if it's a very planned affair, then of course there has to be some sense of objectivity and whatever, some sense of direction to the entire thing. So obviously the life cycle of a sperm is much more than that of an egg, so let it just reach there, chill, wait for the egg and do its job. Please don't make it run against time, run an uphill task, literally uphill task, and fight against time. Why? When you have the time, just let it reach there. As I mentioned in the first video, if you're 35 and younger, you could be trying for a year without conceiving, and you don't need to worry about it. If you're 35 and above, you could be trying for 6 months without conceiving, only after which you might think of going to the doctor. So it's okay for it to take time. I know it's hard to say, don't stress it or don't overthink it or whatever, but if you're planning, you are planning, it's on your mind. And but I just want to say that it probably doesn't mean that something is wrong or off, or there is something of concern. It's just that, as you can see, there are so many factors that go into ensuring that you conceive that month, that little here and there might mean that you do not conceive that month. So don't freak out. So it's okay if it's taking a while. Just maybe plan better, or maybe stop trying for a while, whatever works for you. So, but just try not to get too bothered by it or too irked by it. I'll just come back to the 2 app downloading story that I had started off with. So I've changed both of those apps to the pregnancy mode now, so they don't really give me insight on the ovulation days or fertile days anymore. So I'm going to have to take random figures, but I kind of remember them to some extent, so this is not going to be very off from the actual figures. So I'll just read it out. So obviously, like I mentioned, the ovulation days predicted and the fertile days predicted by both of these apps were now different. So my old app, which had the 57-day cycle considered in the entire prediction, predicted 17th April as my ovulation day and the 4-5 days leading up to it as my fertile days. The new app, which now had 33-day as my average cycle length, because I hadn't included the 57 days in the calculation, predicted 14th April as my ovulation day. So the 4-5 days leading up to 14th April were going to be the fertile days. So what was my total range now? Now my total range was from about the 8th, which is 4-5 days prior to 14th, to what was that? To 17th April. So 8th to 17th April, which was the ovulation day predicted by my old app, was my total window of trying, which is quite a large window, obviously, because I had to put in a bit of buffer because of discrepancy in timing and date and everything. So 8th to 17th. So I more or less tried every alternate day, or sometimes every 2 days, from the 8th to 1 day after 17th. 14th and 17th were the days predicted as ovulation days by both these apps, right? Individually. So in this whole thing of trying every alternate days or sometimes every 2 days, I might not have actually tried on the 14th or the 17th. I vividly remember that I did not try on one of the ovulation days predicted for sure. But that doesn't really matter. When you are trying consistently throughout your fertile days, or what you think are the fertile days, then it doesn't matter if you have figured out the ovulation day and you've been trying on the ovulation day. It doesn't matter, because considering that you haven't given a gap of more than 2, I wouldn't say 3, I have taken 2 as the worst case scenario. If you haven't given a gap of more than 2 days between trying in your fertile period, then if everything else is fine, then it's likely to work. So don't have to bother about having information on the exact day that you ovulate. Another bonus tip, I don't know if it's a bonus tip or if it qualifies as a bonus tip, just another little unscientific thing that I did, apparently unscientific thing that I did, because there is no scientific evidence claiming that this helps in conception. I did it anyway. You're free to try it or not. I put my feet up for about 10-15 minutes, waited, then got up and about. I don't know if that played any part at all. It helped. I'm gonna say yes. So feel free to completely bunk over this part. I hope all of the rest they are scientific. I hope they work for you. Then I hope all of you are very stress-free and planned journey, if you want to go the planned way, obviously. And I hope some of these tips helped. It definitely helped me. All of the reading and the crazy YouTubing that I was doing, I did feel was making me go a little obsessive and crazy at points, but I think knowledge is always better. I mean, I don't know when I would have conceived if I had just tried. I might have conceived the first month. It might have taken a year, but now I know that I did what I had to do from my end to make the situation seem more like under my control, or seem like I was doing something constructive to make this end objective attainable. So I hope the same happens for you. Thanks for watching. Bye.